He was so thin. And I said, Lord, look at that little skinny boy. But, you know, I loved him, and this was the term of endearment, you know. That's the way I felt about it.
We'd be pigging out, and he'd be eating a spinach salad, you know.
Obama was also hard at work with Linda Randall, taking on the Chicago Housing Authority on the problem of asbestos.
We worked almost 3 years to get asbestos removed and to get repairs done.
Also during this time, Lolo Soetoro died and a new mentor emerged.
Say thank you, Lord!
While trying to recruit local churches to join his organization, a Southside pastor suggested Obama contact the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. He attended service one Sunday.
The title of Reverend Wright's sermon that morning was The Audacity of Hope.
Thank you, Lord!
I felt the tears running down my cheeks.
Being the child of an interracial marriage, he was searching for his identity.
As a national correspondent for Newsweek, Allison Samuels has covered stories ranging from racism in Hollywood to NBA sex scandals.
I think that was part of the spiritual journey that he ended up, sort of getting into and to begin when he actually got to Chicago and got involved with Reverend Wright, is that he was on this spiritual journey to sort of find out, not only am I African American man, but what is my purpose here?
Obama would join Reverend Wright's congregation.
Barack wasn't there because of Reverend Wright. He was there because of the community of people who were part of the church, people that he worked with every day.
It was in these neighborhoods that I received the best education that I ever had, and where I learned the meaning of my Christian faith.
But back in 1988, Obama still felt that what he'd done to serve the community was just not enough.
People think a lot more about you if you're a lawyer. So he said, I need to be that person because I want to step forward here in Chicago.
Obama goes to Harvard, graduates with honors, and heads back to Chicago. How did he start in politics? And how did he meet big-time developer Tony Rezko, now a convicted felon? Next. It was the summer of 1988. George H.W. Bush and Michael Dukakis face off in the race for the White House. And after 3 years on the south side of Chicago, working with people like Loretta and Yvonne, Barack Obama made a lasting impression as he prepared to move toward a career in politics.
That empowerment that he gave us, that is a lifelong gift.
And he told his friends, I need a law degree. He looked at the example of Harold Washington, the first black mayor of Chicago, who had a law degree from Northwestern.
Every day is a good day in Chicago.
Like his father before him, Obama was accepted into Harvard. But prior to his arrival at law school, he traveled to Kenya to meet a number of his relatives for the very first time.
Families seemed to be everywhere, in stores, at the post office, on streets, and in parks. My name belonged, and so I belonged.
Obama discovered a personal attachment to his African roots.
I saw that my life in America was connected with this small plot of earth an ocean away.
He returned to America ready for his next challenge at Harvard Law.
Barack was a natural leader in the best way.
Brad Berenson, who worked for President Bush from 2001 to 2003, was a fellow Harvard classmate.
I have a clear picture of him in his leather bomber jacket, always with a smile on his face. Barack was a very laid-back, cool guy. He was a few years older than many of the other students and not someone who could be easily ruffled or upset.
In February 1990, Obama beat all other contenders to become the first African-American president of the Harvard Law Review.
Barack was extraordinarily skilled at maintaining something of a fragile peace among the fractious liberals and conservatives on the Review at the time.
The accolades drew the attention of book publishers to the 28-year-old Obama, who would agree to write a memoir of his life, Dreams from My Father. Graduating with honors, Obama returned to the Windy City to solidify his political roots. He was also falling in love with a fellow Harvard Law graduate, Michelle Robinson.
I sort of get him when I look at her. He went for a regular African-American woman who's on the same page.
Michelle brings a perspective on family and a commitment to family.
Barack met Michelle, a Chicago native, in the summer of 1989 at the Chicago law offices of Sidley Austin.
She's a daughter of the South Side, raised in one of those bungalow-style houses that I spent so many hours visiting during my first year in Chicago.
You get a girl from the south side of Chicago with two working class parents. How more real can you get?
And before their wedding in October 1992, they would mourn the death of Michelle's father, Frazier Robinson, and Barack's grandfather, Stanley Dunham.
Despite these heartaches, Michelle and I decided to go ahead with our wedding plans. Reverend Jeremiah A. Wright Jr. performed the service in the sanctuary of Trinity United Church of Christ.
In this photo, the newlyweds stand with Michelle's mother, Marion, and Barack's mother, Ann. The couple was rising in local political circles. Michelle was working in city government, and Barack accepted a teaching position at the University of Chicago's law school. Obama also raised his profile within Chicago by taking over as executive director of Project Vote, leading a highly successful voter registration drive, enrolling thousands of voters. He was then hired by the law firm Davis Minor Barnhill and Gallant, where he worked full-time from 1993 to 1997 and was of counsel until he became U.S. Senator. In 1995, a 34-year-old Obama began to set his sights on the Illinois State Senate.
It's a tough community, and they don't welcome you in with open arms politically.
Former federal judge and U.S. Congressman Abner Mikva recalls Obama's first election. In the fray was the district sitting Senator Alice Palmer.
She decided she wanted to run for Congress, and she was unsuccessful in the primary, and then decided she wanted to take her seat back in the Senate.
She has to file her petitions very quickly, and a lot of the names were just printed in rather than signed, and so he challenges her petitions, and he knocks her off the ballot, and so he challenges everybody's petition and winds up knocking all the other candidates off the ballot.
In politics, that is standard operating procedure.
State Senator John Cullerton has been a member of Illinois' General Assembly for 30 years.
If somebody runs against you and they don't have enough petitions, normally most people are going to want to knock them off the ballot.
It was meticulous, though, how he and his campaign went through to essentially knock out a lot of Democratic competition.
Everybody has done that.
But that really showed that he could play some cutthroat politics when he needed to.
In November 1996, Barack Obama won his race for the state Senate, representing Chicago's South Side. It was here in the Capitol building, in Springfield, Illinois, where he would begin to weave his way through the vigorous battlefield of Chicago politics. When some people describe it as hand-to-hand combat, is that a fair description?
Well, it's very competitive. It's all the same party.
In 1999, he entered the race for the U.S. House of Representatives against former Black Panther and three-term Congressman Bobby Rush. Obama would lose by a landslide.
He had some things to learn about politics in Illinois, and particularly about politics in the South Side.
So he was back to work in the state Senate.
He was very close to Senate President Emil Jones.
We will continue to insist that we take care of them.
Emil Jones has been a member of the Illinois General Assembly since 1973.
He was a real political godfather.
With Jones's support, Obama helped pass expanded health insurance and early education programs, a tax credit, and racial profiling reform. Throughout his years in the state Senate, Obama used the option few legislators in the country possess, to vote present instead of yes or no. Senator Hillary Clinton criticized those votes in a debate back in January.
In the Illinois State Senate, Senator Obama voted 130 times present. That's not yes, that's not no, that's maybe.
A present vote in Illinois is the equivalent of a no vote. It's a no vote with an explanation.
I think a lot of people don't understand this, whether it's in Illinois or across the country. You have the option of yes, no, and present.
That's correct.
And present means no.
That's correct.
If a critic said, that's just a way of not attaching yourself to an issue, trying to keep distance and separation, what would you say?
Flat out not true.
In the middle of his state Senate career, Barack and Michelle Obama would welcome their second daughter, Sasha, who was born in 2001, rounding out the family of four with older sister Malia.
But the United Nations, in the face of Saddam Hussein, has not been effective.
A year later, in the build-up to the Iraq War, 2002, Obama speaks at an anti-war rally, saying in his words, he was opposed to a war based not on reason but on passion, not on principle but on politics.
This was an unwise war. I opposed it in 2002.
It really was advantageous to him in that U.S. Senate race for him to give that speech.
That race began in 2003.
I want to thank all of you for a wonderful turnout.
He would face off against Republican Jack Ryan, a former investment banker.
We had someone spending a lot of money to break into a file that a mom and dad wanted to have sealed, protect their son.
2 Chicago media outlets successfully sued to have Ryan's divorce records unsealed.